Great, thank you everybody. And Bob, if I can get you to join us, Bob Cochran, the chair of EFCOG, if you could join me up here, that would be great. A couple of quick announcements. First, those of you who parked, it's $5 a day if you pay at the hotel registration desk. Tell them you are a workshop attendee. Also, if you're a vegetarian, if you need a vegetarian meal, please tell the people at the workshop registration desk. The only other announcement that I have is Congressman Fleischman will now be joining us at about 12:45. We're going to break early from lunch. Right now is 12 to 1. We're going to end it just a little bit early and start that at 12:45. So I just wanted to make that announcement as well. Well, my name's Seth Kirshenberg. I'm the Executive Director of Energy Communities Alliance, and I also want to welcome everybody here. I look around, I see a lot of old friends. I see people who have been working on this program who have taught me a lot over the years about the project and the program, and we're very excited that we're here. We really appreciate the partnership once again with EFCOG. I think it's been a real good partnership to put this together. When I started to think about really this program and this project, I think about what is it that our members, our local government folks, really focus on. And I really started to focus on what you all do really on an everyday basis, and that's really focusing on how we actually get the job done. How do we actually get to the cleanup program? And what makes it the cleanup happen? And I start to think about really the chairman, Chuck Smith, the council member from Aiken County, said what I think we all think is the local communities is we're really one of the ultimate customers at these projects. We're the folks who really want to see these sites cleaned up. And we have the same mission and goal that you do, really, which is, how do we figure out how to accelerate? And that's why I love the Secretary's comments about the multi-generations sometimes, because we think about these things as long-term projects. How do we save money in order to move these projects forward also? And then safety. I mean, these people, the workers, everybody lives in our community. It really is what's going on and what's occurring in our community. And so, we're really focused on that. And then I really started to think about how do things work in the department. I was laughing because, people who are coming in from out of town are focused on the budget now. But the people who live here, we're focused on 17. We're trying to figure out how that's going to work. We're trying to figure out the messaging. We're already saying the sky is going to fall on 17. 16, we'll move forward. December, we're really concerned. But what's going to happen with 17? And what are the themes and the messages as we're going forward in order to move that forward? And so we're kind of, what's that next step as we're really looking at it? And then I look at the leadership, and I see Monica here in the front row, and we're all pretty excited to have an assistant secretary who's been confirmed by the Senate. You don't know how much that means to everybody to have you on board and to have you in the leadership role, because the reality is we need people who are going to push this program, who are going to make things happen, and we really believe that those people who are Senate confirmed really can make things happen. We've gotten a chance to talk to you and work with you, and we're very excited about that. But when I think about what we're doing and we think about the projects, a lot of times we look at these contracts that are let on these programs, and they're the 5-year contracts. We were talking yesterday. We hope they're all 5 plus 5. That they're not. We don't want to see any of these 3-year contracts come out anymore. But what we were talking about is really how do you keep people focused on the long term, because that's really what we're trying to get to. And then at the same time, you're trying to keep people focused on the short-term piece, because we have to tell Congress also what to focus on for that annual budget. We have to tell the communities what to focus on. And what we've learned over time is, as we all have the same goal and we kind of come up and we create that goal, whatever it is, we're all able to kind of work on that, and we're all able to message that, whether that's locally, when we're trying to communicate really what the goal is for the site, but it's also up here, the folks that are actually trying to communicate what the ultimate policy is of EM, who are fighting for a budget with a lot of other different types of entities, whether it's the Department of Defense, whether it's other parts of the Department of Energy. Really, what is that messaging? And so when I was thinking about this, I have a chart in my office that has all the themes from EM, over the years. Accelerated cleanup, 2006 plan, whatever it is, we always have them. So I want a competition to occur here. We're going to put something out we have an ECA bulletin that comes out once a month. And what should be the 17 theme? So I want you all to think about that, and we're going to have a contest to see who comes up with the best 17 theme. And we'll also have a contest to see who comes closest to what the department's actually going to come out with for that 17 theme as well. So we hope we're helping the department as we're moving forward, but we want to see that kind of going forward. We talk about the difficulty in the projects, and the communities know it more than anyone else. I was looking around. We've got a council member from Carlsbad. We've got some other folks who have had to deal with some of the harder issues more recently. But as these issues come up, we really are your partner. So when a problem comes up, and I love to see, and I use that community along with a lot of other communities really as a model, because they step up to try and help the department as much as possible to communicate when issues pop up. But they're also up here talking to people on the Hill and communicating to the appropriators and the authorizers and everybody else and saying, guess what? So the impact here, and this is why we need additional funds to get WIP open now, is it impacts the whole rest of the site. And how we communicate that is one of the things that the Energy Communities Alliance really focuses on, is how we work together across all of the sites to make sure that message is out there and that it's really clear. And that's the other reason why we really appreciate the partnership that we're working on with EFCOG, because a lot of times it's the technical issues that come up. I'll never forget, I went with one of the communities, I won't say which one, and we're sitting in the House Appropriations office, and one of the House Appropriators says, okay, you want more money? Tell me how this is going to happen, how this is going to happen, how that's going to happen. And the community, we've got the leaders in there. They're saying, okay, I don't know if we have all these answers. We'll try and get back to you. We need to work with the Department of Energy to get those to you. But those are the types of things that I think that everybody in this room can kind of work on together as we're moving forward. In the last 3 weeks, my executive board went nuts. We wrote 3 letters to the Department of Energy on a couple of different issues. So we've been really busy. We wrote one about centralizing purchasing. We're against that. We're for small, local small businesses. We wrote a response to the risk report to Congress that was written, the omnibus, I even forgot the name of the report, but I think it's the omnibus risk report that was put together by a bunch of experts, and we basically said, you're not giving EM enough credit for what they've done over the years. When we read it, we said, they basically, in what they wrote, they basically said, EM looks at cleanups to basically unrestricted levels. They don't look at risk. They're not really focused on some of the things that they should be focused on. And it was weird for someone, we like to throw bombs at the Department of Energy every once in a while and say, you need to improve X, Y, or Z. But we were out there saying, we've actually accomplished a lot. And when I look around the room, I see the people who have done it, who've kind of communicated this to us. But what we really focused on is, really the communication piece and how we work with the department to try and figure out what is that right cleanup level for the site, and once we focus on what that is, how we actually get the funding to make those things occur. And then the last thing is something that we're working with EFCOG on, which is really contract reform. We really think that there's some real issues in the system right now, and we're getting ready to, I think, hopefully release a joint paper on that and how to improve contracting at the Department of Energy. I think it's a really important issue. And I always tell everybody, how in the world did you get local communities focused on contracting? And I think that there's been a couple of real issues come up, and we want to see competition. We want to see a lot of competition out there. We want to see a lot of people interested in these projects, and we want to see the best people do the work. So, just to summarize before I hand it over to Bob, when you think about the communities, think about the people who are out there really supporting the program, supporting the budget, supporting what makes sense. We support the state also. I know there's a lot of push on the state and the regulators. We really support the regulators. We think it's critical that there be the legal requirements for the Department of Energy. But at the same time, when we think the state's overreached, we are right there pushing back on the state and attorney generals a lot of times to make sure that there is that balance. And then all we ask for is really the support in the community, that we're engaged in the decision making and in the processes as we're moving forward, because we think that's critical for our own communities. So once again, I want to thank you all for participating. We look forward to continuing to work with you over the next 2 days, and then I want to hand it over to Bob Cochran, the chair of EFCOG. So thank you, Bob.
Good morning, and thank you, Seth. Those are very good remarks relative to the conference. Before we get started, I always like to start things with a little safety message. Many of you know that. I'll use one that I used yesterday because I think it's appropriate and there's a broader audience, and it's very personal in terms of what you're thinking about when you go to work or when you return from work. So we're in the changing season right now. We just went through, the autumnal equinox, I think. And so the sun sets a little lower in the sky right now on the horizon when you're going home, and it rises a little lower in the sky when you're leaving for work. And by the way, children are going to school now. So all of those things turn into factors when you're thinking about safety, because you're getting impaired vision as a result of the glare of the sun. And Michael Graham reminded me, clean your windshields. And you've got new obstacles out there, or young, precious children that are on their way to school. And we've got to be aware of that. And this is the time of the season that you end up with that type of factor involved in your daily life. So be aware of that, and remember that when you go back to your places of work and your homes and so forth. That's very important. So this is a first. Everybody's involved in a first right now. This is a wonderful thing. How many times you get to be involved in something for the first time? So we're having a workshop, a national workshop with DOE. More important than that, it's the constituents that are here that are part of the first, and that's the communities themselves. And we had a great meeting yesterday with the ECA talking about Seth's topic, which is contractor enhancements, I'll use it that way, ways of doing contracting in a better way. And also in that discussion, we exchanged a lot of ideas in terms of what's important and what is meaningful relative to the community and what takes place in all the work that DOE directs at this point in time. And it's surprising how all of us have commonality with respect to that. And that's an important thing to remember. All of us are in the same boat when it comes to taking care of the legacies associated with this. I'd just like to ask, how many of you remember the Tiger teams? And were around when the Tiger teams. How many remember the Beamer? And how far out it projected this was going to take? And Seth mentioned one, accelerated cleanup programs. In other words, closure contracts. And so all of that's taken place, plus since then a number of other things, innovation and technology, come from creative thought. And that's what this conference is all about. It's to incite creative thought with the key players. And to get an idea of that, how many are from the Department of Energy that are here? How many from the contractor community? How many from the communities and the stakeholders associated with these sites? So we've got a pretty diverse group of people, and we're going to be here for 2 days. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for everybody to exchange ideas, interests, thoughts. And the important thing about that, it's not really about the technical matters. It's not really about the management approaches. It's about innovation and creative thought. That's what the Secretary was talking about when he mentioned technology. Technology doesn't get applied or developed without creative thought. That's something that they really don't teach much in schools these days. In fact, there's a great TED Talk, I don't know how many of you have heard it, by Sir Ken Robinson, a UK educator. And he talks about creative thought. And our schools and universities really teach the basics. But rarely do you get into a situation where you have to apply creative thought and apply all of those technologies, those ideas, management techniques, processes that really make things go, that really make things happen relative to the work that we want to accomplish and to improve it on a regular basis. So I would request that each of you think about creative thought. So EFCOG, just as a little snapshot, is a 90-member plus organization. Many of you are members, obviously. You're here today. I think ECA has how many communities involved in your work? About 40, which represents a great population. In EFCOG, we have 5 working groups that are ongoing. I ask that all of you think about this, and they're in partnership with the Department of Energy, and they support and we support in many different ways, and this is sort of the ontogeny of these creative thought ideas. But these groups are broken into safety, security, and effective practices, and I think Ernie talked a bit about that today. Developing platforms to create and share advances in innovative practices. We have an entire group that's related to that. Establishing frameworks for measuring performance and things of that nature. And then taking on creative solutions and processing challenges and issues. And we break these work groups into really 5 areas that are very important. And I want to read these out. One is project delivery work groups, safeguard and security work group, the safety work group, the training work group, and the waste management work group. And all of those have actions and activities ongoing. They develop work plans every year for activities that we're going to conduct throughout the year. Many of you participate in these. And we develop product at the end of the year related to that. In fact, we instilled that type of approach recently in the entire process, and it's made quite a difference. And that was at the direction of the Department of Energy to get us more focused on what we wanted to accomplish in the year. So I want to conclude by saying a few things that I think are really important relative to the conference and what this workshop is all about and what we should attempt to take away from it and gain from it. Exchange your experiences and ideas during the breaks. Find somebody you don't know. Spend a little time with them. Talk to them. Find out what they're doing. Search for new approaches. As we go through the conference, search for new approaches. And as we conduct workshops during the conference, think of new approaches that can be used in the jobs that you're conducting in other locations. Develop an understanding. Develop an understanding of the stakeholders, of your customer, the Department of Energy, or in our case, our colleagues in the contracting community from my perspective. And then last, stimulate imagination and creativity during the dialogue. Ask hard questions. Think about it and come up with solutions during the process. So as I conclude, there's a few people that we have to thank for pulling this thing off in a few short months. First of all, the idea from Candace and Mark Whitney and putting something on like this and developing that concept and then moving forward with it. And then the support of Seth and his team and Robin, Christine, and Mark Fry. I don't know how many days they spent doing this to get all of this together in short order. It was a record. And then Marty Schneider and Mike NARPA were involved in thinking through things and getting us on the right track in many ways. So I want to thank those and give them a round of applause for all the work that they did. Thank you again for coming, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. Be safe.